Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. Brought to you by Blue Sky Business Consulting. We discuss 5 questions in about 15 minutes.
Hello again, everyone. We're glad you joined us for the Team Engagement Podcast, and I'm very excited to welcome our guest today. She is from one of my favorite places in the whole world, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is Kara Renninger, and she is the owner of Kara Renninger Consulting. Kara, thank you so much for joining me, a fellow Phillies fan. So I'm excited to have you on and excited also to talk about our topics today. What would you like the audience to know about your consulting business?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Sean. You know, what we do is we help entrepreneurs and business owners scale their businesses to multi-7 figures and beyond, focusing on not burning out or spending more time working so you can have more time for baseball.
There we go. That's what we like to hear. Yes, more time for some fun things in life, that work-life balance, as we like to call it. So that is awesome. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started, because I'm sure you're going to have some great insights for a lot of these entrepreneurs and leaders out there that are trying to kind of figure some things out, especially as they're scaling, as you pointed out. So let's talk a little bit about the first question. How do business leaders know when to pivot in their business?
Love this question, and it's something that comes up so often. Actually, this morning I was just recording a video with somebody that we worked with who did pivot, right? Who did a pivot, and her original idea wasn't what started out. So, you know, what you're doing in a business is really trying to secure product market fit. And once you have that, then you continue to scale the business. And so really, the data is what's going to tell you when to pivot or not to pivot. I would say 2 things. The data is how we make decisions that help us get scaled, and we take our emotion out of it. And that's a super important place to be in when you're a leader of a company or when you're a leader of a department. You have to be able to make data-driven decisions and don't take things personally. And along with that, you know, the other side is really tuning into your own intuition. You know, it's like when you get that feeling inside, it's like, this might not feel right. Should I do this thing? When your heart's pounding, you know, I like to go by, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. So I pulled those 2 pieces together and say, okay, is it time to make a change? Is it time to be brave? Is it time to try something different? Nobody got to greatness by being comfortable.
Great comments. I really like that. And yeah, have it be data driven, and then also a little bit of follow your gut kind of a feel in there as well. So that's a good blend. Very good. All right, Carrie, if you would, share with the audience one of your company's core values, and then how that value helps you make decisions.
Yeah, so, you know, we have company values. I would say when working with entrepreneurs, we focus on some core values of 7-figure businesses. And the 2 that I want to talk about are performance and insights. So I've learned over the years in scaling people's companies to value hard work and focus. And I feel like hard work's a little bit of the dirty word nowadays. You know, we want to talk about manifesting what people want in their life and, you know, doing things in an easy way. But again, some hard work has to happen so that you can really get that clarity to get to the next place. So I rephrased hard work into the word performance. So we want to have repeatable processes and systems in a business that we can start to see how they perform. And from there, we want to use the insights, which is the data that we get, the metrics from those processes, to help us determine what our next move should be, what opportunities are available that we're missing out on, what shifts we need to make in the business to stay focused and on track. I think, you know, for me, it's all about intention, right? It's the intentionality of a business. And so if you're just mindlessly doing things and you're not focused on the intention behind it and the impact you want to make, then you're not going to get to where you want to go. So for me, when I work with businesses, we focus on performance and we focus on insights. And those 2 things are what really drives success.
I love those comments. And I'm going to just follow up with another comment very quickly. I like what you said, because, you know, if you are intentional about the direction that you're going, that helps to kind of fend off the what we call the shiny object syndrome, where people start going with different ideas and they're running all over the place. When if they'll stay focused on their vision, their values, and so forth, and be intentional, as you said, that helps avoid that. Helps prevent those. Okay, let's go over here and do this. Let's do this, and makes it difficult for the team if the owner is constantly changing directions all the time. So.
Yes, that's such a sore spot for people when they come to work together, is that the owners always have the shiny object syndrome. So it's like, how do you balance that out as an owner? And I think how you do that is focusing on performance and insights, right? How's what we're doing now performing? What are the insights I have from that? And those are the indications you can bring in with your gut, your intuition, and with knowing what's the next decision for you. And one little strategy I want to share that's really helpful is I have something I call the backlog list. And it's a super simple strategy, but for those who do have the shiny object syndrome challenge, which we all do at times being creative entrepreneurs and business owners, to start a backlog list. Like every time something comes to your mind, it's like, I should do this. I'm going to consider that. I just start writing it down on a list. And then you just have this list always of like potential things that you could do as your next move. It gets it out of your head and it takes that energy out from what we're devoting to that, lets us focus back on what are the revenue generating activities that I can do right now.
I like that. I like that. It is a good idea. I love that idea to have kind of that backlog list where you don't necessarily forget about the idea. You can still capitalize it when the time is right. Just depends on if the timing is right, whether it's now or later. So that's fantastic. All right. Question number 3. What's one tip that you have to help business leaders find and then hire talent?
I think the first tip is to value the talent that you do have. A lot of times, you'll get great referrals from other people. And when you bring in other candidates to interview, they're going to, interact likely with some of your other employees, and really valuing the people that you work with. The people are what make a business successful, right? It's the people. And it's usually not yourself as the leader. It's the people below you that you're inspiring, you're empowering. And so, I like to use a non-traditional interview format where I really focus on the values of a person. I hate when people do an interview and ask, where did you go to school? And, want to know some of that information. I don't find that valuable. And I don't think that's what fits in with the market right now. It's really about being values approach. So if you can find out about people's values, and then secondly, always try things out, depending on the role that you're hiring for. You may or may not have that opportunity, but as much as possible, try to have a test project or a test something that you can make sure, are we on the same page? Do we communicate? That's how you can find little details that might get missed. And that's going to let you know. I know a lot of people like to use like different personality tests and things for hiring. I also don't love that either, but I know people have success with DISC and different things like that to see if you're the right match. What I would say is, as the leader, take it upon yourself, reverse engineer it. Like, what is it that you need to know about somebody to know if they'd be a good fit for you? If it's where they went to school and that matters the most, and that needs to be a question. If it's not, if it's, you need to know how they handle a challenge that comes up, or you need to know how they handle it when life's tough for them, or, do they come up with ideas? Are they innovative? Figure out what it is that you value as a company. Like, what are your company core values? And then make sure that you reverse engineer that. And the questions that you ask in an interview aren't just something you Googled, but they're actually something that's going to tell you, is this person going to add to the value of the company? And is it going to be fun and enjoyable to work together?
Oh, I like that. Right there at the end, the fun and enjoyable part, we forget, yes, there's a skill set. Yes, we need to be able to get things done, be productive and whatnot. But boy, if you can't get along with the people you work with, that makes everybody miserable. And I want to go back to what you said a minute ago, also that first item about having the values. And I liked what you call the non-traditional approach to interviewing. I completely agree. I tell clients all the time, do not interview and then ask the questions that are already on the resume. If you've asked for a resume, don't just sit there and review the resume. You know how to read, just read it. If you need to read it ahead of time, once you brought them in for an interview, have a conversation about them. And I love that you bring up values, because I agree completely. That is a really important conversation to have, to see where the values align or perhaps don't align, and how you would resolve that if that was important enough to you. So that's great comments. Great comments. All right. Question number 4. How do you identify and develop strengths within your company?
Yeah, I was thinking to add on. So I utilize a lot of global talent for my own company and for companies that I work with. It's a really cost-effective way to help build out your company initially. And so we have a mix of both, right? And in doing that, it lets us add on supports and services we need. So I tend to find that rather than focusing on the old model is hire a person with a salary for a big job, right? We want them to do a lot of things. The business owners think, I want them to do a lot if I'm going to pay them good money for it. And what I found that works really well is hiring people to do parts of jobs, to do a portion of it, and getting them really good at that, really getting that systematized. Sometimes that's a more cost-effective way to do it. And so it also brings a lot of opportunity. I've really enjoyed, I have people that I work with all over the world, literally, in my company. And it makes it interesting. It makes it fun. And also there's something very impactful about it, because I'm helping other women in particular. I like to work with women, but I have men that work with me also, helping other people in other areas of the world who just don't have the same opportunities. And I found them to be very good cultural fits and very aligned, and really appreciating the opportunity. And something about that has been super helpful in growing and scaling the company. And so I think just having that cultural diversity is helpful. No matter what level you're hiring for, having that cultural diversity, it gives you different perspectives, than what your experience might be from whatever country you're in, whatever that experience is. Helping to understand those differences, it's something you can make a difference in other people's lives. They're going to make a difference in your lives. They're going to make a difference in your customers' lives. And so I like to be super open about, doesn't have to be in fact, I never follow the traditional model. I don't find it as effective. So I think, by bringing in talent from different places, it gives me the ability to be creative and to look at the person for the value that they're bringing in, and always approaching things. I don't know if you've ever read The Four Agreements, but I like that book. And it's like always approaching things like not taking anything personally, and always kind of just finding like, my mission for every day is to find the greatness in other people that I'm interacting with. If I focus on that, then that's going to help them be their best, whatever that means, right? Whether they're going to be in an executive role, whether they're going to be in a support role, whatever their best is going to be. That's what I want to focus on bringing out for people. And utilizing global talent is a really good way to find and hire talent, if you're having trouble finding US-based talent also. So I wouldn't be afraid of it. Long ago, I used to, hadn't done that before, and it was different. And I found, some employees, not just contractors to do small jobs, but actual employees who are super valuable assets for my company.
That is a great insight, because I agree that there's some global talent that is as yet untapped. And I think that's probably always going to be the case. But I also appreciate the fact that there are more and more businesses popping up that help to, for lack of a better word, screen some of these global candidates, and then they can really help simplify the process to find the right candidate. So I think that's a great comment to consider, how you can find and then identify the talent, the strengths, and all of those kinds of things. So, all right. Well, we're at the final question here. One of my favorites. I'm going to put on the old cap here. For those that are regular watchers, you know what this means. It means we're going to talk baseball for just a minute. Kara has a great story. I haven't heard it yet, but I'm sure it's great, because we're going to talk about baseball. So, Kara, share with us a favorite baseball memory.
Yeah, so my son, he's 21 now, but he played baseball for all of his youth, and we have some of those amazing baseball stories. His team actually won 38 championships in their young years. So it was like weekend after weekend. They were such a high-performing team, and we've learned a lot from that, right? And actually, the head coach of the team, his name was Jeff Pinter. He's actually passed away now, but my son, my family, the whole team learned so much from his leadership. As an example, he was really a great man. And my son was super close with him. My son was the catcher, so he was looking in the coach's eyes every minute, getting the calls for the games when they were younger. And, it was a really good example in that when he went home at the end of the day, he was such a great family man that he had his own business. He was a successful guy, but he was able to leave all that, the baseball goals for the team and the kids, everything, leave it behind and go home and be present with his family. And that was something that, he taught us throughout his life, is just to be present in each thing that you're doing. And I'll never forget one memory with him was my son. He had just moved around the batting order, and there was some discord among the coaches who should do what. And it turned out that my son was moved up in the batting order. Not something that we cared about one way or the other, but, it was a little turmoil, I would say, amongst the team for that. And it didn't go as Jeff had planned. My son struck out when he got up to bat, right? He struck out. And I remember my son was a little discouraged by that. He felt the pressure, and he didn't slam his bat down, but he was like 8 or something. He did a little, tap down of the bat. And the coach got so angry at him and overreacted. I thought he was very upset with him. And he was just like, you can't act like that. Like, he really focused on the value of how he wanted my son to show up for himself and for other people in the world. And I would say that was probably a really upsetting moment for me as a mom of a kid. I remember having to go to the car and stay in the car for a little bit because I was really upset and I wanted to fix it for him. And that was like, I don't know, a great lesson in leadership for me, for him to have to go through something. He was young. It was one of our first experiences of not being able to come in with the good old mom fix. but for him to have something he loved so much and somebody he respected so much, who, they had such a great track record, so many good memories, to have an experience that that didn't feel positive in the moment, but it lasts for my son. And he honors and respects that coach always. Still, he has his name on his shoes, and he just learned so much from Coach Jeff. So it was a sad loss. His family lost him to cancer, a very young man. And it's been very sad, but he was made like the biggest impression on my son ever. And he's really a guide for him still, I would say, today, and how he wants to show up in the world and what he does. So we're really thankful that we had all that time.
Oh, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. And it's always sad when we lose someone when they're much younger than perhaps the average age of passing away. But we're also grateful for the impact that they made and the influence that they had, especially in this case, on so many young people, including your son. So that is fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that. It just reminds me of when I played and the coaches and the impact that they had and how they handled different situations. I remember one game where I committed. They put me at third base, and this was in junior varsity in high school, and they put me at third base, and I committed 3 errors in one game, and it was not a good day. But the coaches handled it very well. I thought they were going to be just super upset, and I'm sure they weren't happy, but at the same time, they just were calmly like, "Hey, Sean, here's what you're doing wrong. Try to make an adjustment." I didn't play third base or too much more after that. They figured out that my speed was better utilized in the outfield, I think is what the determination was there. But anyway, well, thank you so much, Kara, for sharing that and also for being on the podcast today. How can people find you?
You can go to my website, kararenninger.com, and you can also find me on Instagram if you want to send a direct message. Happy to have a chat with you, hear about your baseball memories or anything business related.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. And thanks to everybody for joining us again on the Team Engagement Podcast. We wish you a great day and a great week. See you soon.
This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, go to teamengagementpodcast.com. We also invite you to follow or subscribe to our podcast wherever you may be listening or watching. Is your business thriving? Go to tbs-score.com to find out. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great day.